Hello everyone. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday, right? Yes, we're at Wednesday. Mercury Day. I usually like to film content on this day because it is naturally a day of communication, of learning, and I am excited but also definitely a little nervous for this live today. You may have seen some of my stories this week leading up to the live that I'm going to be sharing some stuff that I have not spoken about publicly really much at all, and have only shared bits and pieces in private with my students, with my closer community, and all of that. So I wanted to take some time to actually reconcile the Prasiddha that you may have known over the last 8, 7, 6 years or so, and who I am today and who I am now. Actually, my business partner and dear friend Savannah really inspired me to start looking at this aspect of my life, and especially on social media, because she was reflecting on something similar and kind of marrying this concept of marrying, the old me with the ever evolving me, right? And it's a challenging thing to be seen, right? To be perceived constantly by a large group of people, like I am here on Instagram or YouTube, through the work that I do being a professor and a community leader. There's a lot of space and opportunity to create ideas about me, right? To create stories about me, to create opinions and judgments and everything in between about who I am. So today my intention is to show up really vulnerable, really authentic, and a little nervous, but also excited to be really transparent to everybody and give you some important updates on what's in my heart these days and where I am at in my personal life, my spiritual path, my beliefs, etc. I've been getting a lot of really good questions related to this. I had dropped a question box earlier in the week, and I wrote down, I have a little paper here, I wrote down some of your questions, most of your questions, which I thought were really amazing. And I'm going to address each of these today. We are going to cover a lot in this live, so I hope you will enjoy it. I hope you will engage. Let me know your questions or your thoughts and where you're tuning in from in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. That's what it's all about for me, is it's the people, it's the tribe. I'm an ENFJ, so I do it for this, I do it for the community, and I hope that my transparency and vulnerability will help you all to share more of that in your lives as well, right? And to feel like you can own all different parts of yourselves, even the things that others may find a hard time hearing, right? Or the things that are hard to talk about. So I'm going to be talking about some of these topics. Hey Felicia, thanks for joining. Nice to hear from you. So today I'm going to be starting with some spiritual path life updates, because I know those are the most burning questions that most of you guys had. And then I'm going to move to some personal relationship questions that I got asked. So I'm going to start off really strong with the question that I got asked the most from you guys. Do you still follow your guru? Do you still follow Nityananda? What happened? Where's your guru? What's up with him? What's up with you? All of these things, okay? Hey Victoria, glad you're here. So this is a topic that I have intentionally not spoken about very much for the past year and a half, maybe more. Hi, I just don't know your name, that's why. If you can let me know your name, I can say hi. So for the last year and a half or so, I have intentionally avoided most questions related to this out of respect for my own internal processing and privacy, and also because I had so many feelings I was reconciling, and still am, to be honest. There are things that I'm still processing related to that chapter of my life, and there are things that I feel I have processed. So I will share some of that with you guys. A lot of you, if you have followed me for many years, or especially if you started following me via YouTube, may have noticed I look different. I express different. I may be talking a little bit different. I may not appear outwardly to be as Hindu as I once was. And even that is something that I want to unpack because we need to talk about it. But first and foremost, I am very much still a follower of Sanatana Dharma. But I would say that my intensity for certain ways of expressing that has definitely changed, because I have taken in so many more practices and paths outside of just Dharma, including occult studies, including some shamanism, including tons of other different lineages of divine beings and practices, which I hold in my heart. So first and foremost, I'm very much still, a follower of Sanatana Dharma, but I'm also, very multidisciplinary in my approach, in what I believe to be truth, and in what I even personally practice on the daily. It's not just limited to what would be considered as Hinduism, although I predominantly still do practice that, and I still teach that. I am a professor of that inside of our academy. Now, let's get to the juicy stuff, which I know you're all waiting for. What happened with my guru, and where am I at with all of that, right? This is a complicated thing to answer, but I will do my best to articulate it with grace. When I left the ashram in 2019, so travel back with me, I used to be living at the ashram. For those of you that have been around that long, thank you so much for following me all this time. Let me know if you have been following me since then. I know some of you guys have. I lived in India, in an ashram for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. At the time, I was also married. I was a very devoted follower of my guru at the time, and I became an ashramite. I devoted my whole life to service, to karma yoga, to living in the ashram, to not having, outside career or income. And I moved there with my then partner and husband at the time. I had, a very beautiful experience there in many ways, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't. I'm not going to deny I had extremely transformative and beautiful experiences there with my guru, in the ashram, in the community there. All of that is true. A lot of my past videos, you may have seen me sharing stories of mystical experiences or beautiful things happening to me, absolutely remain true and were true to my experience, at that time. However, in 2019, I decided to pull out of living at the ashram. I felt I was in a really dark place personally, and I decided to follow what my heart was telling me, which was I needed to come back to the West. One, I needed support of family and friends to get me through the hard time that I was in. And there was a lot that I couldn't fully process at the time, but was really, really struggling with. Yes, Rob, I was at Nityananda Ashram. So, no, this is not going to turn into a bashing fest by any means, but I also want to share with you the whole spectrum of my experience, right? So, I was in a really dark place. I felt my marriage was crumbling, and it was, I was in an extremely, extremely challenging environment at the ashram. Everyone there was predominantly sannyasis or monks, and I was one of the only grihastas or married people there. And the energy and the kind of belief and sentiment at the ashram was very much that, being a monk is the highest, and anything else is below that. Everyone is very pushed towards taking sannyas, vows of celibacy, becoming a monk. And I was there as a newly married couple and as a very young person. I was only 21 to 23 at that time. And it was a very challenging environment, not only for me as an individual, but for my marriage especially, right? We never had, time alone. We were so burnt out from all of our work and devotion that we literally had no time to put into our relationship or each other. And we would take out things on each other because we were so pushed and prodded, in every way in that environment. We were really being tested, and some of that was a very beautiful spiritual chiseling. And then some of that, I think, how I feel about it now is a little different too. And I'll get to that. So I was in a really challenging space, and I felt very unsupported at that time. I didn't feel like I had any resources to help me with what I was going through there, and anyone that was helping me try to solve my marriage issues or to give me mental or emotional support that of how deeply I was struggling. So I left the ashram in 2019, and since then, so now it's been 5 years, I have been processing everything that I experienced and went through all those years. And I think as the time has progressed, the longer I've been away, I've come to a deeper clarity about what I think, what I believe, and what I feel about it all. I feel like I'm in a more beautiful, peaceful, sovereign place than I've ever been in my life, and I know 100 times more clearly my feelings, and beliefs on my experiences. So 2019, I'm processing my experiences, but I'm still kind of very much in it mentally, right? Like I had just walked away. I still very much considered myself part of the sangha, part of the organization, devotee, etc. And I was still trying to work on my marriage at the time, and my ex was a devotee of the same guru. So it was very challenging, right? And very intermixed, because we, our whole relationship was also completely intertwined with our guru, and our path, which made it even harder. And I think I was unable to kind of fully process what it all meant for me, again, independently of all of that, right? So, to kind of get a quicker summary of where I came at the last year, that year, 2019, most of that year I spent trying to salvage my marriage, but we ended up parting with love and with peace because my ex, some of you guys already know this, wanted to take vows to be a monk, and he felt very called to stay very devoted to the organization and our guru, and felt very, very pulled to staying in that path and devoting even further, where I felt very clear that I did not want to do that. And not only did I not want to do that, but I also really felt very strongly inside me that my dharma was to live in the world, to be in the West, to get certified in further, dharmic and Vedic teachings, and to share and teach this with others and practice this here. So I felt very clear on that, and we saw that we had to let each other go. It wasn't for any other reason than that. But in love, we realized, like, I cannot hold you back from your dharma, and you don't want to hold me back from my dharma. So we parted, and so since then, 2020, around COVID time, I had been single. I had been building up my whole life from scratch, right? After leaving everything behind to move to India and to the ashram. So I started from total scratch, $0, no career, no job history for some years, alone, rebuilding my life, and also trying to make sense of all of my experiences. So these past few years, 4 years, right, since then, I have been in this beautiful journey of developing my self-love further, of developing my sovereignty further, of building my Ayurvedic practice and studies and business, of creating, you know, my whole life exactly as I really intended. And it's been such a beautiful journey and so necessary, I think, for me to experience that aloneness and that sovereignty to really come to the space that I'm in now. And so at the end of 2022, the very beginning of 2023, I was about to launch my program, Dharma Keeler Mastery. And I had, you know, done years of study and certification for Ayurveda in the West. Also, of course, years of study of yoga and tantra independently for almost a decade. And the school, my course was the culmination of all of those studies in a way that Westerners could actually understand and have access to. It was such a passion. It's still such a passion of mine because, you know, every day, hundreds of you guys message me across social media sharing that you want to, you know, you wanted to be learning these things. You didn't have places to learn them. You didn't know how to learn Hinduism outside of India, right? Like it wasn't accessible for you. And so I heard that call and I was like, I want to make something that is available for people to learn the amazing path of Dharma, right? That has changed my life, you know, and is still such a big component in my life. So, you know, I built that up and I was so ready, so excited, you know, and at that point, my involvement with the sangha was very less, actually really not at all. I had kind of, as the years progressed, I was getting more and more distant from the sangha, and by that I just mean like organization. I wasn't involved directly, right? Because before I had heavy involvement, I was very much actively involved. I was kind of a leader for a long time in the ashram and all of this. And, you know, I went from volunteering sometimes in like 2019, 2020 to no engagement whatsoever, right? And I had realized at the end of last year that I hadn't resonated with my previous guru in a long time. I hadn't, you know, enjoyed the topics, the satsangs, the discourses. I did not feel that we shared a mission any longer. I felt a really big shift in the energy, in the intention from when I first joined back in 2015. And I think it was something that I myself actually struggled to even admit, to be honest. And even now saying it, it's a hard thing to say because I think there is so much internalized guilt and shame that I took on related to the ability to change what I feel or think about things. And, you know, the sentiment is very much like, that's not an option. The sentiment is very much, you know, it's wrong. It's wrong. And you're not allowed to divert. You're not, like, why would you have any interest in listening to anybody else or following any other path? Like, this is the ultimate. And, you know, I realized the more that I was away and, you know, in my own energy, that was exactly what I wanted to get away from. You know, initially when I went on my spiritual journey, I was leaving the Catholic Church, a lot of religious programming, and my biggest thing was like anti-dogma, you know, this is the only way kind of approach to spirituality. And so it was finally like this click that, dang, you know, I ended up in the same place without realizing it. In disguise, wearing a lot of different masks and using different terminology, but like I ended up in this place that was I felt very boxed in and very dogmatic in its approach, that this was the only way, that this was the ultimate. And that was something that I don't believe in. I don't believe in that approach, and it's not something that hits my heart, and it's not something that I want to practice. And so, you know, that's why I had kind of definitely pulled away, socially speaking, from all of it. But it was something that it was really hard for me, you know. Sorry. it makes me emotional because, like I said, there's so much, I think, just internalized shame. And also heartache and disappointment for what I thought I had found. And how simple I thought it all was. You know? Like, it's like I grieve the girl that had such innocence, and that world that felt so simple at the time. You know, and I've come to discover in my own maturing and growth that, you know, the truth is very much not simple, right? A lot of times reality is not simple. It's really complicated. And I'm still reconciling with a lot of feelings of, you know, love and gratitude in my heart for, you know, my experiences, and also sadness and anger at times. And, you know, so much processing has happened, and you can see I'm still having things to process, very much so. So thank you for bearing with me, and I do apologize if I don't articulate everything perfectly. I hope you all understand where I'm coming from, wanting to share this. So, towards the beginning of this year, actually, the beginning of 2023, I launched my program. You know, I began taking students. I entered this part of my life that was the most empowered I ever felt, you know, and I felt like, when I really say this, guys, like, I felt an unshakable knowing that I was walking my path, you know, I was walking my dharma, and nothing could take that away from me. Nothing could stop me. I knew to the core of every cell that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was doing my dharma. And, you know, guys, I'll tell you the pivotal moment for me. I reached this point where I was still really holding on to that old me and that old identity. I was still really holding on to that, you know, bond that I had with my guru, and I didn't know what it all meant. I didn't know what it all meant for me to change or to step away from that, and I had a lot of fear about what it all meant. And so I reached this point where I was kind of realizing, like, you know, this is something I haven't resonated with for a long time. There are a lot of experiences that I had while a part of the organization that I just can't defend. I can't justify. I don't want to justify, and I don't want to put my name behind it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel I can stand behind this. It doesn't feel right to me, and I don't want to pretend that it does or make any excuses for those things. And so my final kind of straw, in a sense, was when I launched my program. I had a very strong feeling that I would face resistance from the organization. And indeed, I did. So right off the bat, you know, after years of no communication or interest in me, all of a sudden, you know, I was reached out to. And it was really kind of what I suspected would be the case. And I had told myself when I was stepping into this new chapter of my personal dharma, my power, my independence, honestly, my sovereignty, my truth, that nothing would take me away. Nothing would take me away. Even if I faced the thing I feared the most, which was like this rejection from my sangha or my guru or all this, even that was worth my dharma. Even that was worth my dharma. And I still feel like, I feel that to this day. I think nothing is more important than following that inner compass. And literally nothing in the world is worth taking us away from that clarity, that power, and that truth that we always feel and know inside of ourselves. And so I reached this point where I was like, I know I have to be doing this work. I know I'm meant to be teaching. I know I'm meant to be doing this and offering this. If, I face resistance, like, okay, I accept it. And indeed, I did face resistance, and it was really, it was really hard, of course. Now, some context, right? Some people, maybe based on their personality type or things like this, is maybe not as hard for them to kind of be rebellious or to have people upset at them. I'm an ENFJ. I'm I should say an ex-people pleaser. I am somebody who is extremely empathic, very, very, very sensitive when it comes to conflict, others' feelings about me, all this. So it was like a really big test for me. And yeah, I was basically told, without divulging too much, I was basically told like that I was not supported in doing that. And to the extent that like no one should be doing that, outside of guru, and even practicing Ayurvedic medicine is something I shouldn't do. And I was just like, that's not right. That's not right. Sanatana Dharma is for all. It is owned by no one, and it is meant to be available to all of us, and through all of us. And what I received was very, very, very much so disempowering, and so like, we own this. And I was like shocked. I was actually shocked, and more so like it was like the final straw for me that like kind of broke the camel's back of like, oh, this is where it's gotten, like this is what it's become. And it made, it was very heartbreaking for me actually, but it was also kind of what I suspected in a sense, like, which is why I had pulled back, and it was kind of like this final kick out the door, you could say, right? A very painful kick out the door, but a needed kick out the door. That's awesome. I love that you're practicing Ayurveda. That's so beautiful. And so, it's like, I felt this like cord was cut, right? And I was, for the first time in my whole life, like I realized for the first time, I am not outsourcing anything. I am not outsourcing to anyone as a medium or a mediator between me and the divine. It's just me. In all rawness, it's just me. And now there's nothing that can distract me from that. There's nothing that can pull me out of that. And so I feel that even in that, it was like a gift from Shiva. It was a gift from God. It was a gift from true guru, to like point me to that, which is the ever eternal truth that all true gurus, all true enlightened masters say again and again, right? Which is like, your inner guru is the ultimate, right? And we can never get away from that. And you'll reach a point, even the scriptures say that you often reach a point where you have to even cut the attachment and the stories and the ideas that you have about guru, about a physical guru. And you have to also break that attachment, and you also have to shed that on the journey to enlightenment, right? And on the journey to higher consciousness and self-realization. That also has to be dropped and let go of. And I believe that it was a part of my story, and I believe that all of it was auspicious and all of it was a blessing. All of it taught me so much. All of it empowered me so much, and it was also incredibly painful, incredibly painful. And it's still painful because, like I said, that part of me it's like a grieving of this innocence. It's a grieving of this idealism inside of me. It was a grieving of thinking I had found the one answer, like the answer was simple, but I also now celebrate that life, truth, God is such a mystery, is so known and yet unknown to me, and ever evolving and experienced by me, right? And that can never be taken away from me outside of all external circumstances. So, whew, wow. I thank you for being here and holding space as I've been processing all of this. Really appreciate you all. I don't expect, by the way, I don't expect that you need to agree with me. I don't expect that you need to think the same thing as me or feel how I feel about it. I also very much don't want to harm anyone else's sentiments about their guru or who they follow. I can only share where I'm at. And I really just felt I needed this reconciliation to happen, so you can know me, you can really know me in truth, that I honor all of that. I honor all of those experiences. And they were also part of a different me. They were part of a different chapter. Dharma never leaves me and will never leave me. But, those titles, those associations have changed. And it's okay, it's okay. It's beautiful, and it was needed. It was necessary for me. So, thank you. Thank you all for listening to this reconciliation. And like I said, I really don't want to harm anyone's sentiments. And I also feel like I needed to reconcile these things and share honestly, transparently, authentically my experiences and where I'm at. If you have personal questions that are related to your own experiences, you can very much feel free to DM me. I'm open to chatting with you directly. And yeah, I think a lot of our dynamics are changing, It's interesting, somebody said, right, like the time of gurus is over. I think that it's not necessarily over, but even the Buddha predicted that this exact time that we're in right now of human history, there would be a shift in the dynamic between guru and disciple, that it would no longer be this like kind of pedestal relationship, but actually a friendship. That the guru-disciple connection would happen much more in the dynamic of peer-to-peer relation, than what we've seen previously. And I really feel that that shift is happening. I feel that the collective consciousness is craving that, actually, right? Is like looking for that kind of a relationship, is looking for those kind of teachers, is looking for those kind of guides. And it's a beautiful new frontier for all of us to explore. So yeah. Thank you all. I was going to talk about more stuff, but maybe I'll have to do another live related to other questions that I got asked. I think in the next live I will do updates on my personal life related to moving. I know I moved across the world in the last few months. You've probably been like so confused about my movements. I will give you updates on that. Also about my relationship, my current relationship, if I am going through a breakup or if I'm single, my love story, as well as my divorce and lessons that I learned from that, which somebody was asking about. So I'm excited to chat with you all about that in the next live. Thank you all for your love and space holding and oneness. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you more in future content.